Wow, someone has been trash talking the Ten Commandments and he needs to cool it, man. Welcome to Free to Find God. My name is Michael, and today I'm going to respond to Kyle Kulinski's recent attack on the Ten Commandments on his show Secular Talk on YouTube, and to discuss why trash talking the Bible in this way is so destructive, and why the Ten Commandments are still important and relevant today. The Kyle Kulinski Show ran a video which had the thumbnail 10 Commandments in Classrooms, and it was in response to the Texas bill to require the display of the 10 Commandments in public schools in that state. It was entitled, Texas Republicans Go Full Christian Fascist. You have to excuse my language as I quote directly from Kyle as he trash talked the 10 Commandments, saying that more than half of them were, quote, the dumbest shit you have ever heard, unquote. He also argued that only 2 or 3 of them would make the list of any 10 best things for good human behavior. Kyle also scoffed and laughed off the commandment about adultery. And then Kyle actually broke the third commandment during his rant by blaspheming the name of Jesus Christ. After that, he broke the 9th commandment, thou shalt not lie, by equating the 10 Commandments with fascism. Kyle's equation of the 10 Commandments and Christianity with fascism is a false testimony, because demonic Nazism was one of the biggest antichrists of all time. Fascism is a child of the anti-Christian nihilism of the German philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche, and has nothing whatsoever in common with either the ethics of Jesus Christ or the 10 Commandments or the religion of Judaism in the Old Testament. In fact, today's far left version of cultural Marxism, which is quite popular in intellectual circles in the West, is just as anti-religion as Nietzsche and Nazism were. In fact, cultural Marxism and fascism are two sides of the same coin of extremism, and both are built upon a rejection of the whole Judeo-Christian tradition and the role of religion in society. Both would like religion to be taboo. Kyle then labeled America a secular nation, even though the American think tank Pew Research Center has just published survey results showing that the percentage of Americans who call themselves Christian has stabilized or leveled off at 62% of the population, a solid majority. Yes, America has a separation of church and state, but the population is factually majority Christian, period, even though Kyle would like to wish that fact away. Trash talking the Bible may be trendy in the circles of cultural Marxism and the far left, but it serves only to undermine respect for the rule of law and the ethical foundation of our society. This is also fueling the culture war, which is tearing apart many societies in the West today as we speak. Disrespecting God always seems to end up inflating human arrogance and pride, while diminishing personal accountability for our actions and their consequences. A society without respect for or knowledge of the Ten Commandments, as well as the ethical teachings of Jesus Christ, will be very exposed to corruption. And let me give you a quick example by holding up the Ten Commandments to the examples of conduct of President Trump and Elon Musk in public life. If we go through the Ten Commandments and look at their behavior in public life, it doesn't present a very good picture or a good example. And it just shows you how bad things can get if people violate the Ten Commandments. So firstly, President Trump and Elon Musk both violate the first two commandments because they clearly worship Mammon, the god of money, not the God of the Bible. Then further down in the list of the Ten Commandments, clearly the commandment about lying, they violate that regularly with their propaganda and trying to cover up the truth of what they're doing. And regarding the commandments about adultery, obviously they don't honor that either. Which regards thou shalt not kill. If you look at some of their policies and the application of their policies, then we see that many people have suffered and even died as a result of those policies. So in my view, if you hold up the Ten Commandments to these two gentlemen, we find that they come off very badly. And this is only one example of how things can get out of hand if the Ten Commandments are not respected. I'm afraid the result of their serial disregard for God's commandments has turned both men into heartless and even cruel people. It doesn't matter if fascists or cultural Marxists dishonor God's commandments. The net result is always the same. Conversely, widespread honoring of the Ten Commandments and the rule of law will create a more stable and united society, as well as much safer and stronger family life as the spine of any well-functioning society and community. Kyle and his cultural Marxist peers on the left, as well as far-right fascists on the right, are tearing up the roots of our society and civilization. And so this is not about Kyle, but a battle of ideas of what is fundamentally right and what is fundamentally wrong, of what is just and what is unjust. And really, I'd like to repeat my call to add comments below on what you think the Ten Commandments mean to us today. Really love to hear from you. And my challenge goes out to Kyle Kulinski for a debate on the importance and relevance of the Ten Commandments today. And I will even offer to appear on his channel so that he can host the debate. But I'd also like to ask the audience to get involved in this important conversation, because I do feel the foundations and roots of Western civilization are being undermined daily. And we need to join this conversation and put things right. The Ten Commandments are found in Exodus chapter 20 and verses 2 to 17, and are God's blueprint for the rule of law, social justice, and for ethical behavior. A society without laws would be in a state of anarchy, and every organization, every business, every family, every government needs ethics to be sustainable in the long run, or their systems start to fail and fall. This timeless and universal code of behavior was revealed to Moses at Sinai about 3,500 years ago, and yet is still the gold standard for a sustainable code of behavior. And what we're going to do now is close the show with video clips which show you the results of a survey in the UK in 2017 by YouGov on the relevance of the Ten Commandments to the British people. It also shows you how the Ten Commandments profoundly influenced the development of the rule of law in Britain, Europe, and America, and therefore became part of the foundation of a Western civilization. Thank you for joining me on this, and I hope you enjoy the video clip. Until next time, God bless. Professor of Law and affiliated Professor of History Stephen K. Green wrote, "It is axiomatic that many of the principles contained in the Ten Commandments are fundamental to the Western legal tradition." Joseph Story, a Justice of the Supreme Court and a leading US constitutional scholar of the 19th century, wrote, "There never has been a period in which the common law did not recognize Christianity as lying at its foundations." Sir William Blackstone, English jurist, justice, and Member of Parliament, and author of the classical Commentaries on the Laws of England, wrote bluntly, "Christianity is part of the laws of England." Sweden adopted the Ten Commandments into their criminal law system in 1608. John W. Whitehead, founder of the Rutherford Institute, an American civil liberties organization, said the Ten Commandments functioned as a pattern and a guide both in court decisions and in the framing of individual pieces of legislation. Finally, we should never forget that the US itself was created as a country under the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, which both recognized that the Creator God endows inalienable rights upon those he has created. Although the Ten Commandments are approximately 3,500 years old, modern British people still overwhelmingly support 6 of the Ten Commandments as principles which they believe are important enough to live by. This is astonishing. This survey by YouGov in 2017 shows overwhelming support by the majority of the respondents for most of the Ten Commandments. You'll see the dark green represents those who still believe that those commandments are important enough to live by, and the light green in the bottom right corner represent those respondents who feel they are not important enough to live by, and the grey small segment in the middle is those people who don't know the answer. But what you notice is that a lot of dark green in this slide, and huge support for the commandments: you shall not commit murder, you shall not steal, you shall not bear false witness, you shall not commit adultery, honor your father and mother, you shall not covet other people's possessions. If you look at the bottom 4 commandments, which the majority do not think are important enough to live by today in this particular survey, I would argue that they are more theological and probably haven't been properly explained in modern English to today's society. The bottom line is that in a modern advanced society like Britain, the majority of the citizens still see the great value and important principles of the 10 Commandments. And this means they have enjoyed currency, social and political currency, for over 3 millennia, which is pretty extraordinary.